Hi, I'm Maya, founding engineer at 14AI.
Hi, I'm Marie, co-founder at 14AI.
Hey guys, I'm Wojciech. I'm still at golf.
And today we're excited to be presenting our workshop, Agentic MCP for support teams, workflows, weaknesses, and resilience. And today you'll learn. Started shortly. And today we're going to learn about MCP and hear from the CEO of Golf Dev about the current state of MCP and implications for the future of customer support.
I'm Wojciech. I'm still at golf.
So before we get started, share in the chat where you're calling from and your favorite food.
What's your favorite food, Maya?
I would say my favorite food is tea leaf salad.
Yeah, Maya has tea leaf salad at our 14AI office 5 times a week when she can. And what's your favorite food?
Mine? I would say pierogis, like Polish pierogis. Yeah.
I think it's on your computer. Maybe here's here it's in to remove. No, just remove it. Yeah. You need to remove. Oh, wait. It's good. Awesome.
Great. So for today's agenda, we're going to be starting with giving a little brief overview about what MCP is. So we're going to be getting familiar with the protocol that connects models with tools and data. We're going to be talking about why MCP matters. So understanding the integration problem it solves and its architectural advantages. And then we're going to have some insights with Wojciech. So a deeper look at MCP's impact, real world applications, and lessons from the field. And then we're going to wrap up with a Q&A session. So this is going to be an open discussion on MCP implementation, customer support applications, and also technical considerations. So let's get started by talking about what MCP is. So you can think of it as the universal connector for AI. So MCP is an open protocol designed to connect AI models with tools, data, and services through a standardized interface. You can think of it as the USB-C of AI integration. So a single standard that enables universal connectivity between diverse systems. So MCP creates a unified interface layer, eliminating the need for custom integrations between each model and tool. So this arises from the M by N integration challenge. So the problem was that integrating M tools with N systems traditionally requires building M by N custom connections, and MCP introduces a universal interface because it reduces the integration work to M plus N connections. And now we can talk a little bit about MCP architecture at a glance. So in terms of the host, the role is, it's a main AI application, for example, Claude Desktop or 14AI that interacts with users and leverages MCP to access different external capabilities. For the client, this connects the host to the MCP server and handles secure queries, helps manage the communication flow between the AI and the tools. And for the server, it publishes tools, data, and resources for the AI to use. It communicates using structured, consistent JSON RPC protocols, and it also supports multiple transport mechanisms, including standard I/O streams, remote server sent events, and streamable HTTP to communicate with clients. And what does MCP actually expose? So it exposes tools. So these are functions and capabilities available for the AI to invoke, such as data retrieval, calculations, or system operations, different resources, such as documents, knowledge bases, and customer data that models can access to enhance responses with relevant information. Also prompts. So usage templates and task hints that guide AI models on how to properly utilize the available tools and resources, and also through elicitation and sampling. So through elicitation, MCP standardizes how user input is requested, and sampling standardizes how MCP servers request LLM responses on behalf of clients. So all of these components work together to create a comprehensive integration layer that standardizes how AI interacts with external systems. So now we have some insights from Golf.
Yeah. Hey guys. So to tell you a bit like what we are doing at Golf. So Golf makes it easy to build production-ready MCP servers. So we help companies to ship MCP server that actually works. So we provide the full observability platform plus evals to make sure that your MCP server works with every possible client out there and every possible LLM model out there. So for me, the most important part about MCP is that I believe that MCP is going to be a part of the agentic internet, and that's how we are going to get there. And I think that every company will expose their MCP server as a new product for agents in the long term. And that's why we actually started building like around MCP, because I believe that we need this agentic internet just because browsing agents are not gonna stay with us for long, because it doesn't work to first principles. Like you need to have like a native way to interact with all the systems out there through agents. And actually MCP is this kind of product for agents. Like, so every SaaS should build their own MCP server to actually start to let people to let agents use their product. The most interesting approaches here, which we see from companies, are actually from applied side. Like right now, every company can become almost AI native. Like you can just build cursor style agent within a SaaS, and your customers can just use it through chat. And that's what we are seeing a lot right now. That a lot of SaaS is trying to build those MCPs with agents, and that let agents do stuff. So that's what we are helping companies to do.
Great. Thank you. And now we're going to talk about a little bit about customer support use cases with MCP. So first, for end-to-end resolution, AI agents can access multiple systems through MCP to independently resolve customer cases without human intervention. And they can do this by, for example, querying knowledge bases for solutions, updating ticket status in CRM settings, and also triggering workflows across platforms. They can also, it can also be used for complex issue investigation. So support teams can leverage AI to investigate multifaceted issues by accessing internal data through MCP connections. And this can be used in analyzing customer history across systems, reviewing technical logs and diagnostics, and also generating comprehensive reports. Can also be used for knowledge sharing. So internal knowledge and tickets can be exposed via MCP to other tools and systems, creating a unified information ecosystem. It can help with centralizing information from a bunch of disparate sources, enabling cross-tool search and retrieval, and maintaining consistent knowledge representation. So now we're going to transition to a live conversation with Wojciech on all aspects of MCP implementation and usage. And if you have any additional questions that you'd like for us to address, be sure to add them in the chat below. So our Q&A will cover real-world MCP adoption, implementation challenges, and future protocol developments. And we'll also dive into lessons from building Golf and integrating tools securely.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's go. So yeah, we were very curious, what has been your journey to founding an MCP company and also with Y Combinator?
Yeah. Actually, we've been building for quite a bit of a time, like the more applied side of AI, like just build just AI agents, like AI SDRs, AI assistants. And we are so frustrated that with each of these agents, you need to write integrations, and it actually doesn't work quite well. So why don't we have like the native access to all those platforms? Why my agent don't have the best possible access to the platform I use on my day-to-day tasks? So we actually started thinking, it was like, I don't know, like December, like last year, something like that. So like month after MCP dropped. And actually, when we first saw MCP, we thought that it's just integration layer and it's not a big deal. Like just like cool, you can build integration with Cloud Desktop. Like that's okay, but what's the big deal with that? But then we noticed that, oh, actually, if you're talking about a native internet, this thing looks like it's gonna be a standard out there. And if we want all the companies to start serving agents, that's the way to do it. Like, so cool. So what's the current problem with building those servers, with actually serving agents? The problem is that we're very early. Like it's pretty much a greenfield right now. We don't have much out there. So that's first thing to know about MCP. We are very early. We're evolving very, very fast. So we have maybe not even a few, but we have a lot of things to build and to correct before seeing the mass adoption. However, the adoption curve for the past months was incredible. So why we are doing that? Just because I believe in a native internet. I don't think that, as I mentioned before, I don't believe that browsing agents are gonna stay with us. All things should be done through backends, and MCP is providing the backends for agents.
Amazing. And how was your Y Combinator experience?
Yeah, it was great. We finally found our friends, you know. I feel like that was the biggest thing from YC, because we are meeting similar people to you with similar mindsets, similar drive to build stuff. So that was really good. Yeah, we just get back from San Francisco for a bit to Poland, but I'm missing the actual vibe here there.
Yes. We can't wait to see you back here.
Yeah, how about you? How was your YC
It was
experience?
incredible. Our partner is Tom Bloomfield, who founded two unicorns, and it just made us much more ambitious, and that you can just do
Mm,
it.
yeah,
And we also moved from Europe to San Francisco. We recently got our
mm,
green card, and now we
nice.
building the company here. And yeah, we really recommend every founder to move to SF and apply to YC.
Yeah, totally. I feel like we got a couple of people on the workshop that already applying to YC. Adam, I think
Amazing.
that you are doing that. Yeah.
Awesome. So, yeah, our next question is about real world usage. So, how are companies actually using MCP today?
Yeah, to break down this question, right now we got so the biggest adoption right currently is from the DevTool companies, literally from developer side. Why? Because that actually this protocol was made for that. Was made for just making easy mm, easy way for developers to just integrate and give more context to their agents. So the biggest usage we can see on all the servers, which you can plug into Cursor. And plug in and just give a context to your coding assistant. That's the biggest usage out there. However, most of the MCP servers which were built through non-AA native, not non-DevTool companies have literally zero usage. Why? Because first, we are very early. Second, if you are saying that your customer is gonna change the behavior to connect your MCP server for your CRM or whatever tool you are building, and they're gonna connect that to Cloud Desktop and they're gonna work from Cloud Desktop, it's not gonna be that way, I believe. I think that what you can really do with MCP, and if you're a SaaS, standard size non-dev tool, you can and you should embed MCP into your product rather than building standalone one. That's how you actually can see the usage, and that's how you actually can build something useful for your customers rather than just shipping something for marketing purposes. So that's how I see the landscape right now. DevTool use cases are amazing. Like I cannot imagine working without MCP right now through Cursor. However, I don't think that's anything like standalone MCP are not gonna be a thing for other companies than just DevTools for now, because we don't have enough agents out there that can use those servers. So that's how I see it. Also, like two main use cases, to sum it up, two main use cases. First, Copilot, which actually can do stuff on your SaaS. Second, DevTool integration for your Cursor or any other IDE you actually use.
Great, thank you for sharing. And what are the main technical hurdles from your experience when implementing MCP?
Yeah, like most people get it wrong that MCP, like the way you are building MCP is not that you are just transferring one-to-one all your open API spec, because then you are receiving MCP server with, I don't know, 100 or something endpoints and tools, and it literally LLM cannot choose which tool to use. And MCP works that way that all the tools that you've built within your server are dumped into the context of the LLM. So if you are writing like 110 tools with your server and then accessing that trying to access through your LLM, like every LLM call is gonna cost you the input tokens because you've cached all the tool descriptions, all the schemas and tools within your server. So the way to actually build this is to actually first don't expose, delete, or don't expose, delete endpoints. That's the first thing. We are also like talking a bit about the security of MCP, but just don't expose, delete for now, because I'm sure you don't want your agent to just dump and delete your whole database or all your records. So just don't do it. Just stay with put and post, and you're gonna be fine. Then think about your real use case. You don't need 110 endpoints. You probably need 55 or 15, and that's enough. So just be very mindful about like what tools are exposing to your agent and what workflow your agent is gonna actually execute. And maybe you want to dump a couple of endpoints together. Maybe it shouldn't be just one-to-one, like open like API endpoints to MCP tool. Maybe you want to build more tools together and expose more endpoints together and expose through one tool. You actually need to see like how people are using that and how agents are understanding your server. So that's actually what leads me to the second part of the biggest problem right now. Most of the servers are not usable just because of that, just because they're not tested. And the way you're doing that today is just you build your server, you probably you host it, you connect that to your MCP client, and you're trying to manually just break it. But that's not how you should do it. And like unit tests are also not the way to test MCP, because if you are doing unit test on MCP, you are literally just testing the API, just endpoints. But you already know it works. Like cool. But how do you test the actual context of the actual description schemas? That's what we are trying to solve at Golf. Like we are trying to solve the evals over MCP. And in our case, we are running agents which are generating the outcome-based tests to just test your server against hundreds of real world examples to make sure that actually works at scale and with different LLMs, different models, different agents. So I would say those two parts are the most important.
Thank you. So we have a question from the audience. Any ballpark figure on the upper limit of tools you can expose using the latest good tool calling models?
Yeah, like I would say 40. That's what we are trying to keep under 40 tools, and you should be fine. There are also a couple of libraries that can let you literally just connect to one MCP server and behind this MCP server, there are different, like multiple servers wired together. And for example, the one company is ACI.dev. Go check them out. They're open source. They're great guys. So if you need more tools than 40, just try to use this kind of tools.
Thank you.
Yes, so what are some success stories or learnings from your time building Golf?
Yeah, I would say the biggest takeaways from those past months or weeks were about I already said a bit about that, but we thought that standalone MCPs are gonna have a real traction, like because like everyone's gonna ship standalone MCP, like just a URL link to their server, and people are gonna connect to their cloud desktops or GPTs or any other MCP client. They're gonna use it, and that's how it will look like for the next months. But we quickly learned that the way to adopt MCPs is from embedding that into your workflow. If you are changing the workflow of your users, it's like changing a way and the habits of your users is very hard. So if you want them to just go and use Cloud Desktop and with Cloud Desktop user MCP server, it's really hard to actually convince more than just early adopters. But when you are actually plugging in that into your workflow, into your product, into your customer support agent, it makes very easy. Like your customers don't need to know that they are using MCP server. Like who cares about it? It just my agent can do stuff, and that's the biggest thing that's the most important thing about that. For DevTool companies, MCP exposes basically enables like huge it actually enables to know more about your customer, like early customer onboarding, just because whenever you build your MCP server for onboarding to your, I don't know, agentic framework, what you can do and what companies are doing, they're building like full tutorials, which are just you can plug in those tutorials into your ID directly into your IDE, and you can just execute with cursor over those docs. So, and whenever you see that your customers have some problems with that with implementation, you actually can see like on which step they stopped, and you can reach out to them saying, hey, I saw that you wanted to implement our agentic platform or like agent, you want to build agents, but I've seen through MCP that you stopped on tooling, and I'm super curious, how can we help you with that? Or anything like that with more proactive approach when you actually have data points around onboarding new customers. So yeah, that's what we see from both sides, more SaaS side as well as the DevTool side companies.
Thank you. We have another question from the audience, which is, what is the best tool selection model right now?
Yeah, like we are using Claude, and actually it works pretty well. I've just Claude 4. So Claude Sonnet. So that's what I would recommend using. Yeah.
And we also have a question about what are some preemptive measures that somebody can take to create secure MCP endpoints beyond exposing strictly read-only tools?
Yeah. Very important aspect of doing MCP and like making it secure is the whole authentication out part. Like recent spec just changed that MCP server is no longer it's not like literally it's no longer the resource server and the verification server. It just those things are two separate right now. So I believe that every MCP server which are having access to your private to data to your users should have the OAuth flow included. If you have the SSO, that's even better. You can just implement that, and that's super. This thing is just recommended. But also, when you don't have the SSO, like OAuth flow with your auth provider, like WorkOS, like Okta, you can use literally you can just authorize and authenticate your servers with that to make sure that it's actually secured. So yeah.
And yeah, now that we're on the topic of security and privacy, do you have, any security and privacy best practices and real world challenges when using MCP?
Yeah, like literally you should expose all the permissions to your users that those users have. So you just need to implement all the role-based access control to MCP. And the same way as you are doing that to any other microservice, that you should do the same with MCP. So that's the first thing. The second thing, which is very important, is maybe your MCP got more tools, and let's say your MCP got 20 tools, and maybe your employees shouldn't have access to all of those tools. Maybe they should have access only to the 7 tools out of 20. So literally, you just need to expose that through the airbag to show only to govern the access to the tools. So that's what we are doing as well. Like that, that's more enterprise style, like security measures, and corrected with auth, but that's also very important. So yeah.
And then on this topic again, we have another question. Do you have recommendations on the best way to design your MCP capabilities and resources that you improve the AI relevance?
Yeah. To be honest, if you are, for example, let's say you have your API endpoint with 6 different parameters, and you build MCP tool and you expose that with those 6 parameters. There is no way that LLM model is gonna know how to use this tool. So what you will need to do is just break down this one API, this endpoint, to 6 different tools to let agent correctly choose the tools, because that's all the whole thing about building a good MCP server is that your agent actually knows how to use it. And when you are building a very complex tools, and you just got lost. So build very simple tools. Just break down more complex tools into simpler one, and that's how you actually can gain great results with agent using those servers. There are a bunch of great examples of servers which are great. For example, Supabase, they built very good server. It works. It just works,
Great. Yeah, we are big fans of Supabase here. So.
Yeah.
So this one is, future of MCP. Where do you see MCP going in the future?
Yeah, I believe that right now, as you mentioned, we are very early on the MCP journey, on the agentic journey. And we actually haven't covered that MCP got two types of MCP server, and that the one is the local one, just hosted on your local machine. The second one is remote one, hosted by someone on the cloud. So right now we've seen a lot of adoption from the local one version of the MCP. So literally just companies were building POCs and shipping that as open source projects to see if anyone is gonna use it. But right now, we are seeing more movement from those remote servers. So for example, why you should care? Because when you want to implement, let's say, Notion into your product, right now with MCP or not, you still need to write those server or those integration, wire auth, wire build tools, test it, etc. But whenever Notion exposed their official MCP server hosted by them, managed by them, what you can really do to implement MCP to your agent is just drop in URL link to the server, and it's gonna work. And I believe that's the future of MCP, and that's the future of agent internet. Every company will expose their remote MCP server, which you will be able to just plug in easily into your workflow, just reducing all the scaffolding around hey, should we build MCP server or should we build direct tool calling for our agent? Hey, we can actually just drop in the URL to the server and it's gonna work. And I feel like Notion released the remote server like quite recently. I don't know, like 6 days ago, a week ago, something like that. So we already started doing that and going this direction. And that's how I see that playing out within the next 6 to 9 to 12 months. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. That wraps up our Q&A session. So just looking ahead, today's workshop, we walked through MCP architecture and how it enables AI agents to securely interact with tools and data, for example, in customer support environments. And now it's your turn to think a little bit more about this. So think about a recent support task in your org. What tools did it require? Could those be exposed through MCP to help automate the flow? And we have a workshop next Wednesday, 9 a.m. From prototype to production, deploying support agents with confidence. So join us as we discuss best practices for testing, deploying, and monitoring agents in real-world environments. And so if you found today helpful, you'll definitely want to join us next week. And of course, huge thank you to Wojciech for taking the time and sharing your expertise on MCP with the audience. We all learned a lot. And if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. And now you'll notice in the chat that we have a link to the golf website, so you can learn more about golf, as well as our 14AI blog, our 14AI MCP guide. So have some takeaway and design tips for MCP. And of course, we'd love to hear your feedback or questions about MCP. So feel free to reach out to us, team at 14AI, and Wojciech at golf.dev. And thank you so much for joining our workshop today. And we hope to see you next week.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you.